Um, at 6:01, I'll just go into my introduction if that works. Hunter, I know you've been preparing for, I think, months at this point, diligently, stressfully preparing. So we'll dive right in. Olivia, you good?
I am all set. I'll be here behind the scenes.
A plus. Awesome. So everyone watching, thank you for taking some time out of your busy week to join us this evening. I'm Keaton Makett, and I'm one of the co-chairs of Harrisburg Young Professionals Economic Development Committee. Tonight kicks off our professional development series for 2021. Very happy you're here. We're going to be doing 3 of these this year with the goal of advancing and improving our young professionals in the greater Harrisburg area. Tonight's focused on 10 ways to upgrade your presence on LinkedIn with Hunter right here of WebFX. In June, we'll be hosting interview camera action, which will focus on developing your interview skills with HYP's Toastmasters. I'm pretty excited about that. And then lastly, there's going to be some more info to come about our 3E Elite Entrepreneur Exchange, about learning specifics on how to start a business or a side hustle. So we want to continue to give our members the education, tools, and resources to grow and prosper. We truly believe that this is the best way to make it happen. So without further ado, Hunter, take it away.
All right. So great to meet you all. I'm super excited today to dive into some tips to optimize your LinkedIn profiles, especially if you're going to be getting out into the job market and looking for some opportunities there. So let me share my screen here and let me know when you guys can see it.
Looks great.
Looks great.
All right.
Take it away.
Great. So welcome everybody. Just to give you guys some background on me, like who I am. So I actually work at WebFX, and we are a digital marketing agency down along Front Street, right here in Harrisburg, PA. It is a wonderful place to work. I've been here for about 3 years now, and we have teams across the company of different various channels within the digital marketing scheme. So we have some team members who specialize in SEO and PPC, which is development on the website itself for clients. And I work on the side of social media. And one of my specialties is actually in LinkedIn, which is how I got connected with Harrisburg Young Professionals today to actually get involved for this webinar. So super excited to dive in here. Overall, just like some background on WebFX, we've been in business for about 25 years. The business actually started in our CEO's dorm room. So definitely one of those, kind of ground up companies that's really flourished here in Harrisburg. We moved downtown a few years ago here and have been growing rapidly with over 200 employees now. So definitely a really great privilege to work here and pleasure to share some tips with you guys today. So I'm going to go ahead and dig right in for us. And overall, just going to share some tips that are free for use that, doesn't require you guys to have an extra, upgraded LinkedIn membership or anything. It's all stuff that you can do today to kind of kick things off for your LinkedIn profile. So the first tip that I have to share is, having a profile photo. And to kind of take things a little bit further there, because that might sound so obvious, kind of having a profile photo that really displays who you are and what objective that you have in your industry. So, I have an example here of, what a really acceptable LinkedIn photo would look like. That would be, kind of like a model photo. And then, one we probably wouldn't want to see on there, which is more of a blurry quality, zoomed out, and you can't really tell, who this person is. Now, that being said, there's definitely a lot of beauty in the options that we have for profile pictures on LinkedIn. Overall, if you're in a more creative field, if you're in, a more professional field, but depending on, what kind of career you're interested in, it's going to depend on how you actually position your LinkedIn profile. So I know that sometimes people, if they are, more in the graphic design field, they'll add a little bit of an overlay to their photo or add some elements in there that just make it stand out. But overall, profiles with photos are definitely like the most important thing there to keep in mind, as a lot of times potential employers, if they see a profile that doesn't have a photo, oftentimes, and personally as well, like really we think of that as more of like a spammy account. We probably don't think there's a real person behind that. So making sure that you do have, a professional look and appearance to your profile is going to be super vital to actually getting people to click over to your profile and kind of learn more about you. It's kind of like that first introduction there. I always like to think of it as like a cocktail party. You wouldn't be wanting to go up to somebody who you really couldn't see them or like talk to them. So it's something important to keep in mind that, this is going to be that first impression that people have of you. So we need to make it a good one. And to kind of go along with that, a huge tip that we have is actually having a header photo. And this is one that a lot of people don't have on their profiles that really helps kind of help you stand out above the rest. One important thing to note about this is a lot of times people will avoid having a header photo on their profile because they usually use LinkedIn solely on mobile. And I was actually guilty of this for a few years and then, recently discovered the beauty of desktop LinkedIn. So I definitely recommend as like a side tip that if you're ever updating your LinkedIn profile or adding some assets or elements to it, I actually recommend updating your profile on desktop as compared to the mobile app because there just aren't as many features whenever you're on mobile as there are whenever you're on the desktop experience of LinkedIn. One of those things is actually header photos. So this isn't accessible to be updated on the mobile app for LinkedIn yet. So if you go to your desktop app and edit your profile itself, that's where you're actually able to select one to upload above your profile photo. Now, that being said, once you add one in there, I also highly recommend saving it and then hurrying up and going to your mobile app and making sure that it fits there. Because since it is such a small view, a lot of times what people will see is that they'll upload their header photo on desktop and it'll look great. And then they'll head over to their mobile app and something's cut off, especially if there's like text or a picture of like with somebody's face in it. A lot of times that can get snipped whenever it goes to the mobile view. So I always recommend checking on both views to make sure that it is like a smooth transition and a sleek view for both sides there. That being said, for the header photo itself, there are so many options that you can utilize there. The only tip that I have there is not to think of it as a cover photo for other social platforms. I know a lot of people for like Facebook cover photos will use, like a picture of like their family and friends. And since LinkedIn's more of a professional networking platform, that's definitely not best practice there. You'll want to be using something that, either reflects on your career, who you are as a person, and maybe an experience that you've had in the past or an award that you've won. Mine in particular is actually, just like some social icons, since that is, the industry that I work in, and just reflects, some bright colors and everything as well. So people know that it's a welcoming profile and more approachable there as well. The next tip that I have is actually really having a personalized network. So one thing that's a huge mistake that a lot of people make at times whenever they are sending LinkedIn connection requests is they just send the connection request without a message. Especially if you've met somebody at a networking event, a lot of times they, have probably met so many people, and we've probably all been there where, we've had a request at the end of the day and we can't place our finger on how we know this person. So a lot of the times, it makes it like a less awkward conversation for that person to be like, how do I know you? If we just start out the conversation ourselves. So I have an example here, just popping over a connection request and saying like, hey, like we met here, XYZ, and I'd love to connect. I'd love to talk further. If it's a potential recruiter or a job opportunity, letting them know that you're interested right off the bat, because then they'll know what to expect from accepting that connection with you. Now, on the other hand, I also encourage connecting with people on LinkedIn who you actually don't know personally. So, something that I tend to do is I'll go on LinkedIn and I'll just do a quick search on the platform itself and check out, industry leaders, or if I know of anybody in like the social media field that, maybe I follow them on Twitter or something, and I want to see, what tips they have on the professional end of things as well for LinkedIn. A lot of times I'll just look them up and add them. Those connections, if it is like, more of like a LinkedIn influencer, those don't need to be super personalized. But a lot of the times, if it is somebody who's just, maybe in my field, maybe not like, a very popular account, but I just want to see what tips they have to share on their LinkedIn profile, a lot of the times I'll just pop that in the connection request and I'll be like, hey, like, saw your LinkedIn profile on my feed, love the tips that you share and would love to connect with you. And, so many times I'll make really great connections with people via LinkedIn direct messages, just by sending that connection request with some personalization there. Kind of going off of that too, to get people to discover you in that way as well, I really recommend posting continual updates to really share some value with your network. Kind of in the same standpoint of, if you find someone random on LinkedIn or, maybe there's somebody vaguely, you want that extra motivation to want to actually connect with them and follow them to see what content they're posting. So one of those things is, kind of taking a look from the other side and saying, okay, if I'm someone random on LinkedIn, what's going to make them want to connect with me? So sharing some things of value that, are related to the industry that you work in, are related to your passions or your past experiences. So a few examples are, if there's an article in your industry that you've checked out, or, maybe an industry leader that you've seen, if you have a Google alert set up for something and, you come across something that just looks of value to you that, I always say if it's worth a few seconds of my time to like skim over and read, it's worth a good share, on LinkedIn, just, putting out some like key takeaways or highlights or, just sharing like a little bit of insight as to why this article is valuable to you. That'll really help your network as well to kind of engage with that, as well as, helping them get to know you. So promoting any events that you're attending, even if it's not something that, you're going to be directly involved with, that you're just going to be an attendee, showing people what you're interested in will also help, really export like what type of person you are to your network and potentially open you up to some invites for some other events in the future as well if they see something that they think would pique your interest. That's happened to me a few times where I've actually attended webinars based on, something somebody on LinkedIn has just sent me out of the blue, after seeing something that I've posted as well. So definitely loved that experience. It actually made a great connection between me and that person. So I would really recommend doing the same there. Some tips that you have to share. This can be just super casual, just having a quick post on LinkedIn out there that's like, hey, I came across this awesome tip on Gmail to save like 10 minutes a week. It doesn't necessarily have to be something like, super thought out or like even a tip for your industry. If it's like a time and efficiency hack, or maybe you're working remotely right now and you have like a work from home or a school from home hack, sharing those is a great way too to like reach new people, because that's stuff that will trend. And as other people engage with your posts, their followers and connections are then going to see your content as well to open you up to a whole new network. The other thing that I like to share is, any exciting news that you have going on, if you just recently got a promotion, if you got a new job, if you won an award, all of those like little wins that we share, with our close friends and family, it's always nice to share that on LinkedIn too, to help your network celebrate with you and also to make sure that, they're keeping up with your professional accomplishments. That being said, we also want to make sure we're engaging back with our network. So if we want them to give us all the likes and comments, we got to be giving that back to them too. So I always recommend, taking a little bit of time each week to scroll through your LinkedIn feed. After you've already made all those great connections, sent those requests, you're going to make sure that you're following up with those people to stay connected and stay top of mind for them. So I always like to, go through and see, all of my connections, accomplishments, if they've had work anniversaries, I'll send them a quick congratulations. If I see their birthday has recently passed, I'll send them a quick message. Maybe they just recently got a promotion, or maybe they're just sharing an article like we would do. Just, maybe giving them a quick like, celebrate reaction, or even just putting a little comment on there. It really helps, give them, the insights that you really care about what they're posting, and it keeps encouraging them to post more. I know that, I feel like everybody's a sucker for getting some engagement on social media. I know if I post something and get some comments, I'm going to be encouraged to keep posting because I know that people are engaged with what I have to say. So another thing with that too is actually exploring your network's profiles themselves. And I know this can probably feel a little bit awkward at times because for people without a premium profile, it's going to show that you clicked and like viewed their profile. And I mean, that's definitely one of those things that, as long as you have a purpose, it makes sense. So one of those things is actually endorsing your connection skills. So on LinkedIn profiles, towards the bottom of your profile, there's actually a set of skills that other people can endorse you for. And I always, the phrase that, if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. That's a very common thing for endorsements on LinkedIn. A lot of times, if you go and endorse one of your connections, especially if you know them pretty personally or have worked with them before, and maybe that they're really skilled in leadership and they have that on their profile, you'll be likely to go click and give them a little endorsement. They're going to get a notification that you did that, and they'll have the opportunity to go to your profile then and give you some endorsements. So you're not only helping make their day and engaging with your network, but you're also opening up the possibility that they'll also scratch your back too and endorse your skills. And as always, don't be afraid to send a quick DM to somebody, like I mentioned, if it's like their work anniversary, if it's their birthday, if they celebrated something recently, or just out of the blue, maybe you found an article that reminds you of like somebody that you've networked with in the past. It doesn't hurt to just share that with them and kind of get that conversation started that way. The next thing that's really important for your profile itself is actually, really digging into your past experience. So I always like to say that I use a LinkedIn profile as the way to really beef up my resume that I wouldn't put on my actual resume. So I like to keep things, a little bit shorter on the resume side of things. And on LinkedIn, that's where I try to go and elaborate on everything because, employers, they do like to look at those profiles to supplement what they've already seen from you. So a lot of times, this is a great way to highlight if you've had, little small wins or bigger accomplishments at your past positions that is not necessarily noteworthy for a resume or even your interviews, but something that, thinks that it makes you stand out and makes you a differentiated employee to a potential prospect. So discussing those accomplishments, mentioning any learnings that you've had. So, if you have takeaways from your past jobs, that's definitely something you'll want to share as well. So there's an example here, just having like about a paragraph, even just a few sentences below what you've done before to really recap, what role that you had at that position and also, any accomplishments that you did or any learnings that you had from that kind of shaped who you are as a person. Also keeping your information up to date. I like to reference a few times, that we do like to treat this kind of as, our more beefed up resume. And the same thing with like, we always like to keep our resumes up to date, no matter what, no matter if we're in the market for a job, if we're currently in a position that we intend to stay at, we should always be consistently updating our resumes as, it's kind of hard whenever we're 4 years in hindsight to remember the growth that we've had from day one. So that's something that I always try to update and keep track of. And same with my LinkedIn profile as well. That being said, the most important thing that people often miss is actually updating their contact information. So you'll see this is a screenshot of my LinkedIn profile, and there's a little like blue contact info link on everybody's profile, unless you have your privacy settings turned the whole way up. And people actually have the opportunity to reach out to you via email or phone if you have that listed. Now, that being said, what happens a lot of time is, people will have their old email address on there from like high school, or they'll have an email address on there that's no longer active. And a lot of times, potential employers will reach out to you this way. And if they can't get a hold of you, that's a missed opportunity. And they're left not wondering, why you never answered or corresponded with them back. So, one thing to do is, just treat your profile like your resume and always be updating there. And next is building out your skills to get those endorsements, of course. But basically, this is what you also can't squeeze on your resume that you're skilled in that isn't super obvious to the exact job that you're applying for. So I always put, a lot of skills on my profile that I think, help me stand out, that I'm confident in. That's definitely the biggest thing with skills on your LinkedIn profile. It's great to have a ton on there, but you also want to make sure that you have the knowledge and data to back them up. So, you might want to put on your LinkedIn profile that you're really skilled in race car driving, but if NASCAR reaches out to you and asks you to drive one of their cars, are you going to be able to do it? That's definitely the biggest thing with skills to keep in mind is, if you put on there that you're advanced in, like Microsoft Excel, and, you get to like the job interview and they ask you to create like a spreadsheet and you can't do it, it's going to be one of those things where it makes your credibility seem a little bit lower than it would have if you didn't have that otherwise. So you want to make sure you're being strategic about what you put on your profile, but also remembering the little things. So within the skills section, there's also, courses and different like courses and assessments you can take. And for the courses that maybe you've taken in college previously, or even just taken, on the side, that's definitely something to highlight on there because that can help set you apart above the rest as well. I know I personally have a few courses that I took in college on my LinkedIn profile that I intend to keep there until probably forever, just because they were like such great skill sets that I developed from those. And that's something that I'd want potential employers to always see about me is that, I do have this background. I have been educated in this specifically. And it's something that I would be comfortable with them asking me about in an interview potentially. That's like the biggest thing with the section of like the skill sets and the assessments and the courses for LinkedIn is, you want to be able to make sure that you're able to talk about it. So if it's noteworthy enough to you that you can talk about it, then that's definitely what you want to have on there. That being said, kind of talking a little bit deeper about LinkedIn courses. So LinkedIn assessments actually is like a newer feature of the platform. And if you're skilled in a certain area and you really want to stand out for that area in particular, what you can actually do is in the skill section of your profile, you can actually take an assessment that LinkedIn has put together. And it's just like a little quiz, and it'll basically show on your profile that you are, advanced in that skill. So it really helps set you apart and kind of shows that you have the knowledge to prove it because you've already passed the assessment. So just a really great way to kind of solidify those skills and really show potential employers that, you're not just having them on there to beef up your resume. They're actually on there because you do have a skill set in that area. The last thing here before our tip 10 is going to be enhancing your about section. And this is also something that's really often skipped. And people will often put like, just a sentence or two. And, that's something that I actually do recommend is that, if you are in a position where you're not actively seeking new employment, that's okay to have a more brief about section. I actually like have a briefer about section on my LinkedIn profile just because, I am open to networking and meeting new people, but as you all probably have heard from the intro here, I'm very happy at my job. So, not something that I'm going to be looking for recruitment or wanting to showcase, my abilities, my passions, just looking to, have people get a quick intro to me. Now, that being said, for those in the job market, this is something that's a great opportunity to really help, give the gist about yourself. And I always say, when it comes to LinkedIn about section for all other social profiles, you have your little bio. There's like a really short character count on it. And you try to squeeze, the little fun tidbits about yourself in there that you can. On LinkedIn, that's really where you want to open up and show who you truly are. I always say to talk about, your background, like what has shaped who you are, what experiences have really led you to whatever path that you're going on currently. What passions do you have? What really sparked your interest in your current field? It's even definitely acceptable to put in your about section, what jobs you're applying for, like what positions you're interested in, what industries you're looking at. That way there, when potential employers go to your profile or, potential network connections, they'll be able to get that quick gist of you and understand, probably your intentions a bit more for connecting with them on LinkedIn, in correspondence with the message that you send them when you connect. But also really helps them understand, how to shape those conversations and, what things really have inspired you to be who you are. So definitely something there that, is a great way to really warm yourself up to connections. And I also have this example here, and I love at the end that they actually start a conversation with people that are potentially coming to their profile. And it's like, what books and podcasts are you reading and listening to? What are you doing to develop your HR career? Feel free to connect and let me know. And that kind of gives users a segue to feel more comfortable connecting with this user, because they're like, oh, okay, like she wants to start a conversation, and it's not going to feel as uncomfortable for me to just randomly start that direct message conversation. So if you are looking to, receive those direct messages and get conversations started with potential, people in your network, definitely recommend having like a question at the end there to kind of open things up and get the ball rolling there. And last but not least, the 10th tip that I have here is to follow company pages and groups. So you can see this is a screenshot of, the bottom of my LinkedIn profile. And something that I didn't know for a while was that, following company pages and joining groups and LinkedIn is actually like a really valuable part of your profile. At the bottom of your profile is going to be this interest section. And the interest section is developed based on the company pages and groups that you're a member of. So I always try to, follow industry leaders. If there's a company in particular that really stands out, that does a great job on LinkedIn, or that just has the content, or they're in the field that's really interesting to you, that's definitely a great way and a great tactic to kind of approach that. Any pages that discuss your like ideal subject matter, there's a lot of different groups and pages on LinkedIn specifically for certain job titles even. So don't be afraid to get granular with your searches on LinkedIn as you are exploring these options. Joining groups of other professionals within your industry, even if you're not necessarily in the field yet, even if you're not you don't have an actual position yet that you want to strive for, that's something you can actually start joining groups of people that already are in those positions, and even ask for tips in those groups. People that already have your dream job are a great resource to learn what it really takes to get that job, and just get some more tips on, and experiences from what they've seen in the past too, as they've already gone through that process themselves. Definitely recommend doing that. It's a great way to get those insights and also to build up your network there too. And lastly, participating in group discussions that are already in existence. So once you are in those groups, you don't need to feel pressured that you have to be the only one starting those conversations. It's actually a really great idea to, like, whenever you are going in each week and, digging into your connections posts and engaging with them, also heading over to the groups that you're a member of and kind of interacting with them. If you see that they've shared an article in the group, or, maybe they put a message in there or a question that they're asking for some insights on, don't be afraid to get involved and get engaged there. A lot of times people have some imposter syndrome feelings when they're in like those LinkedIn groups, especially those more professional ones. But nobody's ever going to think down on somebody for asking a question or reaching out in a LinkedIn group. That's the whole purpose of that kind of tool for LinkedIn, and it's definitely something that's really welcome and best practice actually. So great. Thank you all so much. And I would like to open the floor to any questions you have.
Thanks, Hunter. This is Olivia with HYP. I want to kick us off by reminding our attendees we'd love to see your questions in the Q&A or in the chat box. Hunter and Keaton and I will sift through them. I really appreciate your presentation. Thank you for reminding us of so many things we might take for granted on LinkedIn, and proving us wrong with the misconceptions that maybe LinkedIn is first and foremost for finding job opportunities, but it's not just that. You highlighted so many ways to enrich your personal and professional experiences, explore your interests. And I just wanted to thank you for reminding us that there are enrichment opportunities on LinkedIn as quickly as there are opportunities to find jobs. And it looks like we have our first question. Thank you, Jess. I'll turn that over to Hunter.
All right. So Jess asks, is it worth it to research hashtags for LinkedIn personal accounts? And I say absolutely. So, what I like to do for hashtag use for personal accounts is actually to utilize them whenever I am sharing my content. So, for example, if I have, a really cool article that comes out about Facebook, what I usually like to do is I'll explore some Facebook related hashtags within LinkedIn to see, where the conversations are really shaped there, what people are talking about, where the hashtags are getting used the most. And I try to incorporate those into my posts as well to make sure, I'm getting the most exposure that I can. And that if people are searching for those hashtags as well, my post has a potential to come up for that then too. All right, we have another question. Do you have any tips for choosing the most valuable skills, responsibilities from your current role to highlight on your profile? So I actually say, for the skills section itself, don't be afraid to post anything in there. Basically, you want to highlight all of the skills that you have, any skill set that you would want to have, potentially on your resume that you couldn't squeeze into the actual copy of it there. And then basically, whenever you are highlighting like the top skills that you have, that's what I'd actually put in the about section of your profile to really enhance that and give people that first look. We also got a question on the Q&A section that doesn't look like it's displaying in the chat, but it's from Christopher, and he asks, how do recruiters search for talent? Is there a trick or suggestion to get these algorithms to direct these individuals to my account? And yes, so the best thing that you can do is actually really enhancing your LinkedIn profile. The more that you fill out, the more likely it is for you to be discovered. So I actually had like a personal story to share with that. I was actually recruited for WebFX through LinkedIn. And right before that, I had actually like about 2 months ago taken, about an afternoon and researched, the best things to do on my LinkedIn profile back in college. And I really tried to enhance and like build out my about section, spent a lot of time really building out all of the experiences that I've had in my past jobs. And from there, that's a great way to get discovered that way, as a lot of times recruiters will actually put ads out on LinkedIn and they tell LinkedIn exactly who they want to be finding. And a lot of times they develop that based on skills, past experience, and colleges as well. So having that information all up to date is probably the best tip I have there. All right. What's your opinion on stories? I never see any except Gary Vee, but does that just mean mine will get more exposure? Not sure if they're viewed as professional or annoying. So, great question. Since LinkedIn stories are definitely a more of a newer feature, I always try to capitalize on things that are new. I'm not sure if you guys are like good, like big Twitter users, but I know Twitter fleets is like also very similar with like LinkedIn stories, that there's not a huge volume of people using them yet. But it is something that I definitely see being up and coming, especially as we've seen Facebook and Instagram stories evolve. So I think, it's a great opportunity to stand out to use LinkedIn stories if you're not seeing a lot of your connections use them. Especially, if you're noticing who's the only person sharing them for your own connection list, that's how the connections are going to view you too. They're also going to see that, oh, Ben sticks out to me because he's sharing stories for his LinkedIn profile too. Priscilla asks, how have you felt LinkedIn has personally benefited you? So like I mentioned, that's actually how I came to be kind of connected with WebFX, so my current job. So LinkedIn's something I'm super passionate about, and it's actually my subject matter expertise here at the company as well, as I really have a passion for, LinkedIn for business too. So LinkedIn's benefited me in a few ways. I've also developed great connections from there too. A lot of the tips that I shared today are ones that I put into action myself. So, reaching out to people, kind of like the same equivalent of cold calling, but cold DMing. So just, going off the wall and shooting somebody a message that you're not sure if they're going to answer or not. A lot of times that's brought me to a lot of great connections, both personally and professionally. Does writing articles on LinkedIn help with visibility? Yes, it does. So that's a great, really great question and a great way to really get exposure there on LinkedIn too. Something important to keep in mind with like social platforms is that all of them basically favor their own tools. So the more that you utilize those tools on the social media platforms, the more supported your posts and your content is going to be in turn. These are great questions, guys.
Hey, Hunter, this is Keaton. Hey, excellent work. Are, are the people on this call, are they allowed to reach out to you via LinkedIn, or if they have more questions about their
Yeah.
specific needs, can they send you a message?
Absolutely, yeah. If you guys just search Hunter Nicholson, you guys saw my profile picture and cover photo, so I shouldn't be too hard to find. But yeah, absolutely, feel free to shoot me a connection request and we can chat via DM as well.
That's awesome. Do you have anything, Hunter, before we close up here? Any final thoughts?
No, just going to piggyback here and recommend that everybody goes and joins and follows the Harrisburg Young Professional and the WebFX pages. Additionally, if you guys have any other questions about, WebFX as a company itself, definitely let me know too, because we are always hiring.
Awesome. 10 out of 10 presentation. Well done. We couldn't be more grateful for your time and
Thanks.
effort here for Harrisburg Young Professionals. So with that, I think the professional development event is wrapped up. Hunter, thanks again so much. And we look forward to working with you again in the future.
Of course. Thank you all so much. It was great talking to you all.
Hey, take care. Have a nice evening, everyone.
Bye, everybody.